Verse 6, perhaps I will stay with you for a while or even spend the winter so that you can help me on my journey wherever I go. For I do not want to see you now and make only a passing visit. I hope to spend time with you if the Lord permits. So this is just a personal note to the Corinthians. He's saying, I want to go there, I want to visit, but I don't want to just pass through. I want to actually have a visit that I can stay there. And he says, I'd like to spend the winter there. So the winter traditionally in that area is like ours, it's January and February. So he's saying, I'd like to spend a couple of months there. Because travel in general, especially sea travel, was not a thing during the winter. You might remember that multiple times Paul says, we wintered in this little area, which is kind of interesting, right? Because we always think of fast pace and doing this in the ministry. And Paul's like, yeah, you know what? I'll spend 3 months there and just kind of hang out as the weather goes over. And then after that, I'll jump on a boat and keep going on my missionary journey. But anyway, so he says, I want to come visit you, but I want it to be a solid thing, or a solid amount of time. Verse 8, check this out. But I will stay on at Ephesus until Pentecost, because a great door for effective work has opened to me, and there are many who oppose me. And this is the second part we want to kind of camp on. He says here, he says, a great door has opened to me for ministry, but there's many adversaries. So he's talking about Ephesus. So if we were to go back to Acts chapter 19, what's going on in Ephesus when he's there? Well, he's there for about 3 months. If you remember, in those 3 months, you have a riot, right? And remember when we were going through Acts, and if you're here, we had some pictures, and we looked at the amphitheater that's Ephesus. It holds something crazy like 25 or 35,000 people. And it says that they were in that once he's kind of stirred this riot up, that the amphitheater is packed and they're smashed together. So you have like 35,000 people are all in this one place, and they have one goal in mind, and it's to kill Paul, right? And then instead they drag up these 2 other brothers in the Lord, and they threaten to kill them, they beat them, they do all these different things. That was at Ephesus. Ephesus, and not to get grotesque, remember, Ephesus is the place where you walk down the street and there's just phallic symbols everywhere. And there's nude women everywhere. There's the Temple of Diana, where they estimate had about 10,000 temple prostitutes that worked out of that particular temple. So it's a place that's inundated with sex and sexual symbolism. It's a place that makes the United States of America look like play school, or preschool, compared to their culture, right? So it's one of those things, and why bring all that up? That's his version of a wide open door. See, for many of us, and I'm not making any judgment calls on you as individuals, but for many of us, when we say, I'm waiting for an open door, what we're saying is, I'm waiting for something easy to happen, that I can just walk right through, and that would be the open door to me. But that's not really always real in ministry. Sometimes it is. Sometimes God kicks down a door, and you get to walk through it, and it just works out, and that's glorious. But it's important, I think, that we take a biblical perspective, or at least a Pauline perspective on what an open door was. Here's this place that's rancid, it's disgusting, it's inundated with just radical sin that's displeasurable to my own eyes, that's difficult for me to deal with, that I have to walk in and be part of. And all of that you have thousands of people that hate you. Do you remember why the riot was? The riot is because all these people start getting saved in Ephesus. They get saved. They don't pass laws to stop the stuff from happening, although that could be good. They don't get politically motivated. No, they just start preaching the gospel. And what happens is thousands get saved. And a lot of them are obviously, the majority of them would be Roman pagans or Greek pagans, depending on which set of gods. Because I don't know, essentially you have Greek mythology or paganism, right? And then the Romans kind of took over and they're like, hey, we like that, but we're going to rename all your gods. And then through about 350 AD, Constantine fights a battle, calls upon the name of the Lord. In his mind, he wins the battle, and he says, hey, all right, we're going to take Christianity and merge it with Roman polytheism. Voila, Venus is actually Mary, la, 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 la. So you get that, right? So, there you go, little history of religion. But so what happens is, Paul just starts preaching the gospel. A lot of these people are practicing witchcraft. And so they decide after they get saved, they're going to have a giant book burning ceremony. And so they take all these witchcraft books and all these pagan root books, and they begin to burn them. And somebody evidently is there tallying it because they're like, wow, that was 25,000 silver worth of books, which is a lot of money, right? That's millions and millions of dollars. And so what's happening is all these people are getting saved. The silversmiths are starting to lose money. And so they have kind of a guild meeting where they come together and like, yeah, this guy's costing us a lot of jack. And Diana's kind of getting a bad name. So that might be secondary because the big issue is we're losing out on our business here. So they start a riot. So all that to say is an open door for ministry doesn't mean that it's easy. It means that it's effectual. Does that make sense? So as an example, I was talking to a buddy of mine. It's kind of embarrassing. Not that I was talking to him, but we were having this conversation because at our old church, when I lived in California, we did, I don't know how many hours of witnessing. Thousands of hours of 2x2 witnessing, going door to door, all of that. Like, no, we're not J-Dubs. We actually have the real gospel that you still don't care about. But we all of these doors, right? And I wasn't super effective at it. I didn't see a whole bunch of people come to Christ. And so it kind of soured me on 2x2 witnessing. I've never said it's ineffective or we shouldn't do it. It's just not something I've ever super promoted at the church, for good, bad, or the ugly. But he told me, he's like, yeah, I actually started setting up a book table and just witnessing to people at the farmer's market again. So in San Luis Obispo, where I'm from, there's a farmer's market, and you can actually do it all years round because there's this thing called the sun there, and you can do it pretty much every week. And sometimes there's about 10,000 people at this farmer's market, and we used to hand out tracts and talk to people about Jesus, all those types of things. And he says, yeah, I've started doing that again. And I was kind of like, what? What are you, seriously? It got to the point where like people would just walk by us. Like they got to know us. I mean, you spend 11 years out handing out tracts and preaching on a street corner, and guess what? People know who you are. And eventually they're like, oh, yeah, no. And they move on. But he goes, no, I've just started doing this. And I go, why? Even though I shouldn't ask that, like, why are you doing that? Like, how is that working out? What do you do with all the arguments about sexuality or politics? And he goes, oh, no. This is the embarrassing part. I don't know why I hadn't thought about this. He just goes, no. I just tell him, hey, yeah, have a nice night. And I stop talking to them. And I'm like, what? And he goes, yeah. And this is the profound part that I'm really embarrassed I never thought of. He goes, I'm not here to convince anybody to follow Jesus. He goes, I'm just out there looking for the people that are already ready. And I was like, oh. I spent so much time in my life, in my witnessing life, trying to convince people. No, you don't understand. Oh, the earth is this old. No, you don't understand. There was a flood. No, you don't understand. The barrier reef is it grows an inch a year, and it's like 4,200 inches long, and there's a flood. Let me hand you Ken Ham's video. And instead, just being like, oh, you're not interested in Jesus? Oh, you think I'm a bigot? Oh, that's cool. Hey, God bless you. Have a nice night. And go to the next person. See, it's a wide and open door. It's a great door. But there's many adversaries. Jesus put it this way. He says, you're blessed when people smack talk you. That's not King James Version. When people smack talk you, right? When they mock you and make fun of you and they trash you, he says, you're blessed when you do it in my name. Not for being a jerk. If you're a jerk and people do that, then you're just reaping what you sowed. But if you're being kind and people will hate you for Jesus' sake, he says, that's a blessed life. He says, because they did it to me and they've done it to every legitimate prophet that's ever existed. So it's this whole new way of looking at God's work and how we can be involved in it. That it's not about just always having the easiest thing or something like that. It's about moving forward where there's fruit.